This is a free podcast from the BBC. For more information, you can go to our website, bbc.co.uk/Radio 2.
Having reached the grand age of 60, I find I'm entitled to a leisure pass. David Brooks, there's many a person in here, Johnny Marsh I'm thinking of particularly, who could do with a leisure pass from my local authority, says David Brooks, and when I submit my application, I must present proof of identity, which can include my birth certificate. However, a footnote on the form says, no proof of identity must be greater than 6 months old. That sort of knocks the bottom out of it a bit. Do you remember how a few weeks ago the weather people were telling us it'll be bitterly cold? Yes, that's a word they love. Bitterly cold. It's like Bruce Forsyth's moment of truth. Bitterly cold. Well, look, I'm prepared to concede that Saturday night and early Sunday morning was a bit on the chilly side. Strangely, I don't recall the expression bitterly cold arising in any of the forecasts that I had. Look, Beekeeper of New Forest. They like to say that, as soon as the old weather gauge turns a bit lumpy, it gets bitterly cold. I've been watching Little Dorrit. No rooftop TV aerials, no electric lights. Not an anachronism in sight, says John. Bingo! Last night, a car tyre hanging from a sailing boat. Look, thank you for all your emails and letters, and thank you for all the letters you've written about the Eurovision Song Contest. But I'm more than happy to leave it in the manly and capable and witty hands of Graham Norton. He'll do a great job. Heidi Vodka says, I'm so pleased to hear that you'll be doing your usual live broadcast on Christmas morning. Well, it wouldn't be the same, It will make a change from all the pre-recorded rubbish that we get for the rest of the day. So when's the last day for posting you any poems or stories for this year's spectacular? Today. Heidi. No, you in your own sweet time. And Kylie Lochalsh of 42 Glen Close, Kirk Douglas, says, the key to Kenneth Branagh's brilliant, if somewhat hairy, performance as Wallander is geographical. He's skipped smartly over the Skagerrak and exchanged the gloomy Dane for the gloomy Swede. That's what it is. I object strongly to my name being taken in vain. It's Mrs. Di Oxon. I've been dishing up food in the BBC canteen for years, and no one has suffered any long-term consequences so far. I know the BBC is short of money, says Freedom Air. In these stricken times, is it impossible to find a celebrity from anywhere at the moment? Not only were you grumbling to Andrew Marr that you'd been flung off the Eurovision, but we had Alice Jones on with Zoe Ball and Danny Baker. That Alice, she's a divil. And then Paul O'Grady on with Zoe's father, Michael Ball, on Sunday morning. And finally Barrowman on with Elaine Page. Has the BBC lost its cachet? Or is it just keeping its stars in work during these icy times? Well, these are straitened times, as you should rightly say. And we don't know where the next bob is coming from. I can't even escape you on a Sunday morning, says Michael McMuckle, temporary resident of Downpatrick, Northern. Michael, mind how you go. There I was getting me weekly dose of politics on Andrew Marr's Sunday morning when, shiver me timbers, you appear on the screen. Can we please have an early warning system in operation? It's a bit much to be entertained on a Sunday morning before I've even walked the dog. Chuffer Danbridge, good morning, Chuffer. Cheery pip to you. How are things, eh? Still waiting for that fiver, that white fiver from Larry. I fully understand your Eurovision decision. I've been in long runs too. They get beastly. But you entertained us for more than 3.5 decades, which is more than can be said for the Eurovision. They should have a respectful 2-minute silence before the songs next year. And then I thought, no, it might win. And Mike Smith, bored while eating a sandwich the other day, I took to reading the margarine tub. I came to the ubiquitous use-by date. It said 24th of the 1st, 09, 8:34 a.m. Now, this has got me panicking. Come to this momentous day next month. What do I do if I'm mid-sandwich, or even, God forbid, mid-chew, when the fateful 8:34 a.m. clicks around? I think carrying things a bit far, particularly as far as togs are concerned. We have a wonderful disregard for use by, sell by, eat by dates. And good old Call, that's gone to lunch, has reached the ripe old age of 50 today. Scarce a mark on him. Call himself a tog. Luke, sends in the greetings to you, and we wish you well and a happy birthday. And I've no more financial worries, haven't you, Betty? Why? I was 80 on November the 15th, and I'm getting 25 pence a week more pension. Whee! If I'd been 80 before September the 21st, it would have been 100. I would have had 150 pounds more heating allowance this year, because that's the cut-off date. So I'll live in luxury with me 25 pence a week until next year, 2009, when I'll be 81, to get this added cash to keep me in more wealth. Merry Christmas. His name is Boggy. He's a sailor with a girl in every port. Until by Janet he is caught, his name is Boggy. Oh, his name is Boggy. He likes his tailor to use sequins everywhere, so Copacabana will go spare. His name is Boggy. He is a dandy. While horses couldn't stop him growing up to be a fop. His name is Boggy, with codpiece handy. Oh, come on. Come on.
I preferred it without the music.
Yeah, that a cappella. The thing is, I was just the Christmas spirit I was thinking about. Have you put up the tree yet, Johnny? It's as the tree in the window, because many a person I've noticed since the middle of November have got their lights up. Yeah, and the trees in the window. No,
the tree will go up about, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 days before Christmas and come down about 2 afterwards.
Whose task is that?
Janet's.
Well, yes, but I would be supervising.
He can't be trusted with a saw.
But I mean, have you tested the lights?
No.
No, they do that on Christmas Eve and then swear at
Do you
them.
have a battle whether you should have a real tree or a nice manufactured one every year?
We do. We have a battle with our children.
Yes.
We would like something a little less troublesome. They want the traditional.
Yeah.
That's because they don't have to clean up after
Indeed.
Exactly. I've just got the crib, the baubles and the fairy lights down from the loft, says Pauline. Yes, in Great Yarmouth. When they were put away, the lights were neatly wound up and the baubles all had loops to hang them on the tree, so she did it most carefully. Now we can't get the lights untangled. Nope. Half of them. Somebody goes up to the attic and mixes them up. Half of them don't work. Some of the baubles are broken, the loops are missing, and Joseph has gone AWOL from the crib.
They just wander about up there, don't they?
Mary's drunk again.
It's everybody's Christmas tale, isn't it?
Yeah.
Same with ropes on a boat, you know. You put them away, nice and tidy, all wrapped up. You get them out and they're completely knotted. Totally knotted. My ropes are.
I'm not going to say anything.
No.
I'm not.
Well, that's a relief.
Best not. Control yourself.
Write that down.
Yes. As far as we're concerned, you can know what you can do with your knots. An old sea dog with a rollicking gait.
Yes.
I can't read any more than that.
You do one line now.
What's wrong with gait?
I think what it leads to. I think I could have found the perfect job for your underlings, my peons. The BBC could remake the classic series, Adam Adamant. Do you remember Adam Adamant?
Oh, I do, with Gerald
Yes,
Harper.
Gerald Harper, exactly.
Yes.
He lived on top of a garage.
Did he?
Yeah.
I don't remember that bit.
What is this?
Adam...
Look, if you
Adam-
can't keep up, just stay out of it, all right? Boggy could play the suave Edwardian dandy, frozen in a block of ice for 60 years. Then he's released from his icy tomb to return as the elegantly dressed swordsman, that's you, who fights crime. The traffic temptress could be his beautiful sidekick,
Beautiful?
Miss Jones.
Watch it.
And Deadly could play his arch nemesis, the face that no one sees.
Indeed, that's
Which
the
is
fella.
very, very, very lucky.
And we know why.
That's his ticket to fame and fortune. Nobody knows what he looks like.
It would be the lights bouncing off the head. It would destroy the cameras. They're very sensitive things.
The Uckfield Lapland experience.
No,
is writing
I
to
was
you.
not there.
Thank you for your application to play Father Christmas. And our attraction.
Well.
Maybe an attraction to you, mate.
I'm going to need another job soon.
In your resume, you describe yourself as rotund and jolly with a real beard.
Yes.
And a winning way with children and elders alike. You don't mind lying in your CV, do you? This sounds exactly like the sort of chap we need. However, we're concerned over reports we've heard of last year's experience with the Rotarians, when you played a similar role. Instead of bouncing the children on your knee, your lap was occupied predominantly by your head elf, apparently played by a Miss Lynn Bowles, dressed in an obscenely skimpy costume which exposed her underwear. You're excessively... Yes, she's exposed her underwear to me this morning already.
I heard that.
You're excessively gruff, ho-ho-ho, frightened the children, spooked the reindeer, who promptly produced copious amounts of Quite. This led to an extensive clean-up operation during which the Rotary chairman slipped and strained his back. An incident which means he still needs a support girdle almost a year later and had to burn his best suit. Talking about burning his best suit.
Is there a smell of smoke in here?
My grandson Harry's Christmas clothes have all gone up in smoke, you know.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Well, they were the ones that were in the...
Quite.
What do you call it?
Are they just going to cut down your stuff now for him?
I do have some very serviceable underwear, for instance. Scarcely used at all. Not that I go commando. No. Now, look.
An awful image for a moment came into the mind.
Right, I'm going to be ill. Now, it's going to be a little Janet and John tale, just to warn the listener so that they can make other plans and leave the country as quickly as they can. John likes parties. John puts on his special party clothes, a pink satin suit with sparkly green lapels and pockets, a purple frilly shirt and a big pink floppy hat with a zebra skin band. Janet says, "Don't be late home and don't eat too many cakes, because you know what that does to you."
Oh, well, I like cakes.
Do you know how to deal with trapped wind? See John wave goodbye to Janet and hop and skip gaily down the road. The party is at Mrs. Linden's house. See John ring the bell. Ding dong. "Hello, John," says Mrs. Linden. "You look very smart." See John blush. Mrs. Linden says, "Come in. Get yourself a drink, John. The food will be ready in a few minutes." John sees Melanie Frontage. Melanie has a shop that sells Continental magazines. See everything. "Hello, Johnny," says Melanie Frontage. "Are you looking forward to having some turkey?" And Johnny says, "I don't mind turkey too much, but it can be a bit dry."
Raw in the studio.
"I know what you mean," says Melanie. "My husband prefers game." God. He once had a roast bustard when he was abroad. He said everyone should try it. It's even bigger than a turkey, but has a much nicer taste. I think we'll probably make do with goose this year. I don't know where this is going. Soon Mrs. Linden brings the food. See John pull off a whole turkey leg and gobble it down. Greedy John. Mrs. Linden says, "That's the way that you can tell when it's cooked, when you turn it over and wiggle the legs, like this." Of course, you have to make sure it's defrosted properly first. Mr. Linden always said, you should wait until it's got cobwebs in it. Soon it's time for party games. See everyone playing Pass the Parcel, visually impaired buff, and musical chairs. What fun! Soon it's time for John to go home. See John wave goodbye to everyone and trot home. And when John gets home, Janet is trussing the turkey. Clever Janet. Janet says, "Did you have a nice time, John?" "Yes," says John. "I had lots to eat. Melanie Frontage said I should try a big busted game bird for Christmas. Melanie said she'd be happy to make do with a goose. Then Mrs. Linden showed me how to tell when a bird's ready. You flip it over and wiggle its legs in the air, just like she showed me." Can you truss up a fully grown newsreader? Janet can. See, Janet fetched the stuffing.
No, not the stuffing.
Sage and onion again this year. Would you prefer chestnut?
You're listening to the Wake Up to Wogan podcast from BBC Radio 2.
Now look, with all your talk of turkeys last week, I know. Did I say anything about a turkey last week? There's no sign. Well, we did have a turkey in. As it was the week before. We could do with another one now if there's anybody there, particularly you, Bernard. With all your talk of turkeys last week, I thought you might be interested, says Jane, that I knitted one for the window display in our needlecraft shop and shipped a knitted turkey. My word. I imagine you'd find that a little stringy. Lollipop. Thinking about Christmas, which we all are, Lollipop, of course. It reminded me of when I was a little girl and looking out the window on Christmas Eve, I saw a red light going across the sky and was convinced it was Father Christmas. So I shouted for my father, who was in the RAF, to come and see, and he looked, and he turned to me and said, "Well, he isn't coming here. He's too high up to make a safe landing." Yes, even those years ago, the Christmas spirit in our house was dead. I'm pleased to tell you that some of the most senior men in this neck of the woods are, even as we speak, in the control room not very far from me, and Johnny Marsh and the senior producer of the Sarah Kennedy Spectacular. There's Nick, there's Barrowlands Boyd, and they're all looking at the equipment and going, ooh. So, all hell has broken loose here. It's not working. The old rubber band has snapped. So if you've been sending me in emails, our printer has gone kaput. I blame Barrowlands. He can be a bit ham-fisted at this hour of the morning. Ah, Chuffer Danbridge. Good morning, Chuffer. How's it going, eh? No sign of the old white fiver from Sir Larry? What ho, me old seasonal songsters. I presumed Alice Richardson would be filling in for you this week. I thought all Irish ham was prohibited. Ha 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 ha. Oh, I was delighted to hear you'd be doing your traditional live Christmas show this year. Yes, indeed. Yeah, we will come in here through dungeon, fire and sword and snow and ice and sleet to present it for your delight. I feared you might have subcontracted that to Graham Norton as well, but will you be doing your usual cooking tips? Well, we've already had one about knitting your own turkey. Nobody can show you how to stuff a tough old bird like you, unless it's Phil Mitchell on Stendhal. He's well odd, isn't he? He's small, but odd. Would you be doing an Advent candle as well? Will you be showing how to cut up an old washing-up liquid bottle to make elbow patches for a hacking jacket? Now, look, too much, Chuffer. I can't be everywhere. Will you at least be playing Perry Como and the Wehrmacht boy sopranos? Book yourselves up, lads. From the House of Former Lords, Chipping Sodbury, ministers, according to the Radio 2 News at 8, ministers are preparing to announce plans to sell cigarettes under the counter. So, are House of Commons packets of fags, smokable in the House of Commons bars, to be sold out the back of vans at cut prices? Is Gordie Brown organising booze cruises to France to bring fags back in order to meet the public sector borrowing requirement? I think we should be told. You'll be told nothing. You know too much as it is. Now the streets are getting icy and people struggling to walk along the street, says Chris P. Trousers, without any dignity. I was amazed to notice the staff of a well-known sandwich chain that, quite, we'll say no more, still washed their front step last thing at night and then pour enough water to wash 100 steps onto the pavement on Dunbarton Road in Glasgow, so that it's all nice and frozen for the pedestrians the following morning. It was like a competition on I used to be a celebrity on ice when I walked by. Is it me? No, it's me. And as I said, I've been told off for saying that in these crisp and frosty mornings, it's always a revitalising sight to see the good proprietors of coffee shops putting their tables and chairs outside. And I thought, without thinking, of course, because I'd never smoked a cigarette in my life, lucky man that I am. And, of course, it's to facilitate the fags, isn't it? Good news for Auntie. Oh, really? It's from Bertie Worcester. Oh, jeez, there's some raw work done at the baptismal font. ITV has decided not to renew its coverage of the boat race. What? Oh, so exciting, isn't it? Because he's always so close, the boat race. Leaving the way clear for it to return to its rightful home. I should think so, too. Oh, all the history is with the BBC and the boat race, isn't it? John Snag. I do hope that the Beeb steps in, hoovers up this opportunity, as the boat race will sit nicely with its current... It's always an edge. Its current sports portfolio of sheepdog trials, synchronised daffodil growing, and speed tea brewing. And what's more, it'll surely serve as another vehicle for the boy Lineker to strut his stuff. P.S. I'm off now to pinch a policeman's helmet. Following your in-depth report on people sitting outside coffee shops, well, yes, again this morning, and it was sub-zero, there's the good coffee shop proprietors putting out the tables and the chairs, and I have to say, must be hardy people, and then somebody wrote and said, you numpty. That's for smokers. They'll suffer the cold for their cappuccino and a fag. Smoking in sub-Arctic conditions. A news report informed us a local authority, this is good, is encouraging devotees of the evil weed to give up by offering high street vouchers to anyone who quits. And they interviewed a man who'd continued to smoke despite a heart attack and a triple bypass operation. And he was asked if these vouchers would encourage him to finally knock the old smoking habit on the head. Well, says Don, if a heart attack and a triple bypass didn't have the required effect, we hardly think a £5 voucher off Pick and Mix at Woolies would do the trick. What a wonderful show today. Well, Gramps, what a splendid idea to set fire to your house to get a few laughs. Whatever will be next? Perhaps a double-decker bus as a near miss with a bridge too small, a boat that's slowly sinking into the mud. The best of all, a Land Rover with a flat tyre and no jack to be seen. This is a passing reference to all of us here who suffer so much on your behalf. That would really be a test of ingenuity. Keep up the good work while I continue to clean me breakfast from me laptop. Dribbling again, Dave. Don't talk to me about the fire services. I was extolling the virtues of our local fire services in Buckinghamshire and Berkshire, the wonderful job they did to save us being burned to a crisp last night in my house. Don't talk to me about the fire services. After the debacle, that was my mother Reenie's creme brulee. After some genius bought her a blowtorch for Christmas. Failing to read the instructions properly, she marched over to the table, brandishing the said item, the gas full on, to light it with the candle in the table's centrepiece. Oh, well, it certainly livened up dinner that year, and none of us had any eyebrows or eyelashes until March. And Sally, the Yorkshire Terrier, sported a hairline that made her a ringer for Queen Elizabeth I.
You're listening to the Wake Up to Wogan podcast from BBC Radio 2.
Hello, Tell. Hucker here. Rudolph. Good morning, Rudolph. Saw the tape of you and the Jones boy. Yes. This is Little Drummer Boy and Peace on Earth. I love the two floating heads part. Very Christmas Carol-like. Which ghost were you supposed to be? I am the ghost of Christmas yet to come. And we're hoping it's going to be a good one, at least for children in need. Because according to he's no longer Ginger. He's more of a Silver Surfer now. It's our dear friend Chris Evans, and he's been pushing the record like a good one. He's a terrific fella, and of course a great supporter of children in need. You and the boy Allard apparently are now 4-7 on to be the Christmas #1. I never trust bookies. James Burton Stewart. More port to your elbow and chapeau to Hells and Chewed. Yes, indeed. If you would fancy knowing more, it's www.charitygoods.com. That's where you get bandaged, and where in the fullness of time you'll be told. Here's an idea. The latest Charity Goods newsletter has a wizard initiative to clear the way, because, according to Tony Blackburn, my listeners are all too old to know how to download anything. If you can't figure out the download stuff, let the kids buy the X Factor single and then give them a few quid extra to download lots of Little Drummer Boy. There's no great sense of urgency here in the BBC to fix things when they're broken. So we have been little less than we should with your mail for the last couple of days, and that's because the printer has been broken. Well, a printer somewhere in the BBC prints out your emails, but unfortunately we've failed to track it down. But as I say, there is a marked lack of urgency to do anything about it, but sure, it's only the programme, isn't it? And Rika says from St Leonard's-on-Sea, I thought it was just me. It's BBC ageism. Arthur should have been a lot older. What? No, bleak little Dorrit. Dickens did his best work in the dark. A lot older. Lots of heroes in Dickens were older men marrying younger ladies. Over the years, in all the Dickens serials, people are picky. Have got younger than in the books. And the strange single lady should have been older too. Which strange single lady? And I know the strange single lady, yeah. We've now got to watch on Sunday afternoon. Why? In the hopes that you'll be able to understand the ending, which most people seem to be having trouble with. Oh, and what a relief, says Beth. Bethlehem. What a relief as the final of X Factor heaves into view. I don't mind telling you, there were times when I thought it was never going to happen, really. All that sniping between the judges looked as if it was going to go for the entire shebang. It's nice to see they've all made it up, and the show will now reach its natural conclusion. After all, it's about the contestants, really, isn't it? It'd be a shame if the judges enhanced their own media profile at the expense of the up-and-coming stars. Ooh, Eggy. And Norman of Newport. And a kingly Norm. We're still hopeful of a Christmas #1. Oh, with what record would that be? Oh, look, I'm going to be playing it in a moment. There's a shock. And sent out emails to 40,000 customers last night, urging them to buy or download the single. Good news this morning. Well, you hear this. Bandaged, which is the CD highlighting the manifold and talents of, is that the word I'm looking for? Of Radio 2's presenters, along with choirs and all manner of singing and jolly good fun, has sold nearly 31,000 copies, and it's all done by the internet. It's not going out through any retail outlet. And it's generated so far £202,696 for BBC's Children in Need. And that's the Togs doing all the work. In Norman's house, Hells and Sammy are like little twirling dervishes, posting and packing. And be of good heart. If you haven't got your bandage yet, they're going to try everything they can to get the orders out in time for Christmas. Okay? And I'm not sure how legal it is, but a sure way of having your number one at Christmas is, anything. We'll try anything. All Togs take £100 to your local bookies and take 4 to 1 Little Drummer Boy to be number one. 2, then with the expected £400 profit, we spend £300 on buying, downloading copies of the record to ensure it's number one. That's a total of 375 copies each. The bookmakers will be running scared, Little Drummer Boy will be favourite, X Factor odds against. Put the other 100 on X Factor to cover the stake, all profits to children in need. Ingenious or criminal? I don't know, but it certainly seems the way the government works with financial matters. I've finally worked out, in true spooks fashion, why the BBC have kindly been treating us like idiots when they broadcast the news on TV. Yeah. It is. I do think television news editors think we're all complete numpties. Little videos of money, shopkeepers and channel crossings representing the fact that the pound is down against the euro. Yeah, why do you have to send somebody to Brussels to tell us that the pound is down against the euro? We know. Just tell us. And while eating a nice slice of chocolate cake by the fire and chatting on the wireless phone, I muted the TV and lo and behold, I still understood what they were on about. Yeah, I think they need a picture tells a story, you see. That's the principle. I see that the evil being on Doctor Who, Len Horridge, is the kind of fellow who spots this. On Christmas Day, the evil being on Doctor Who is a woman. Mind how you go now, steady. And her name is no less than Mrs. Hartigan. There's somebody with a keen sense of humour there, behind the scenes of Doctor Who. Wouldn't be Davis himself, would it? Mrs. Hartigan, obviously the wife of Alf. So, Doctor Who villains are now Tog pseudonyms. I've mentioned it before. I saw a list in one of the papers, was it over the weekend, that had the top 10 all-time popular music singers. And Aretha Franklin was number one. John Lennon was in there, Elvis Presley. There was no Peggy Lee. There was no Ella Fitzgerald. There was no Frank Sinatra. There was no Bing Crosby. Now, this is a kind of public service announcement, but I'm delighted to do it because, as you may have read in the papers, I smelt like a smoked haddock for the past 2 days, and indeed the house still has the whiff of danger about it because we went up in smoke a couple of nights ago, and the Buckinghamshire Fire and Rescue Service and the Royal Berkshire Fire and Rescue Service were with us within 10 minutes and did an absolutely brilliant job, and I hope they're never appreciated, these people. These good people in the fire service, until something goes wrong. We wondered whether we could try our luck in asking you to remind your listeners. Well, I'm delighted to do it because at this time of the year, there's so much more cooking going on than at any other time of the year, isn't it? It's important to check that the smoke alarms are working. You push the test button once a week. Have you got a smoke alarm? I tell you, if we didn't have a smoke alarm, I would have been burned to a crisp. And keep your internal doors closed, because that'll reduce the speed at which a fire can spread, right? Don't open the door if you think there's a fire in the room. These 2 pieces of advice will enhance the safety of your millions of listeners and ensure they're able to tune in to the programme whenever they like in perfect safety. Well, thank you, Fraser Pearson, and again my thanks to Buckinghamshire Fire and Rescue and Royal Berkshire Fire and Rescue. Terrific fellas. Wonderful. This is Radio 2, grand old, homely old station, and full of grand, homely old people, and among them, Canon Roger Royal, who'll be joining us as we pause for thought. Always welcome. Already has put the laughing gear outside that delicious cake, which which is made for us by Jill Payne, a fantastic Christmas cake. And no, I don't think there'll be any left for Charles Nove next week. I don't know why, just something tells me. It's just a sort of instinct. Anybody know the tune of Thumbelina? Thumbelina, Thumbelina, funny little thing. Tumble dryer, what a marvellous thing. Leave it unattended, and bells start to ring. See it in the corner, how it glows and flickers, melting, carbonising Lady Wogan's knickers. Look, Mandy, dentist to the stars, there's no need to take it quite as light. We could have gone up in smoke, you know. What relief for the listeners of Britain. Since the fair folk of Ireland said no to the Lisbon Treaty last summer. Yes, indeed, they did. I see that the unfair folk of the European Union want them to vote again, and again, and again, until they say, oh, all right, leave us alone. Forgive me if I sound like a cynical old curmudgeon. What part of the word no does the EU not understand? Well, it's not no in many parts of the EU. It's non, or niet, or nada. I haven't liked the outcome of the last few Eurovision Song Contests. Does this mean I can demand a recount and allow the UK to hold the annual No, loose bones, that's not something I can answer. That's in the hands of Lord Lloyd Webber now, and Graham Norton. Why do I breathe a sigh of relief?
You're listening to the Wake Up to Wogan podcast from BBC Radio 2.
What ho, me old brokers, man, it's Chuffer.
Oh, hello, morning, Chuffer.
Contributing, if proof were needed of the awe you inspire in your fellow artists. We had it yesterday, your Christmas record only out a couple of days, and already Robbie Williams is running scared, scurrying back to take that. He knows when the jig is up. Could you ask your understudy, Boggy, to help me out? The principal boy in my panto has lost all her costumes.
Ooh.
I've never had this trouble when I worked with Anita Harris. Anyway, she said she gave her costumes to some freelance theatrical laundry during the week, and they all burned when the clothes dryer went up in flames.
That's what you've been doing.
One has to make a living where one can. These days, these straitened times. Apparently, it made all the papers. So, could you ask Boggy if you could lend us some of his tight, revealing outfits to tide us over? She's a size 8, so his stuff should be perfect.
Aye.
We may have to let down the hem in some of his tunics. The show's for a family audience.
Once they're on, I never get them off again.
With that in mind, no leather, please. What's the matter with leather? Why is it that leather seems to bring out the worst in people?
And PVC.
You know
so
too much.
As 2008 draws to a close, you've noticed Gus Tardwood of Flitwick, as a tribute to that wonderful host of I'm Sorry I Haven't a Clue, Humphrey Littleton, shuffled off the mortal coil. I was wondering if you might care to recreate one of the more serious rounds. Name that barcode. So, Boggy, okay?
Okay, right.
Thick black, thick white,
yes.
Thin black, thick white, medium black, thick white.
I'd say gently roasted ferret.
No, bandaged CD.
All right.
Thin white, thin black, fat white, medium black, medium white.
That's Lynn Bowles.
No, Radio Times. Fat white, thin black, medium white, fat black, thin white, medium black, fat white.
Controller?
No, hemorrhoid cream.
Should have known that one.
Easily mixed up.
Stay with us here on Radio 2, where all the action is. A big up to you.
Really?
I wish you wouldn't.
I know all this stuff. Oh, look, from Harry Pierce, Spook's desk, MI several, to John Beardy Boy Marsh.
Oh, yes.
Security level 5. The Home Secretary has asked me to pass his heartfelt thanks for your pivotal role in our never-ending Cold War against our new allies, the Russians. Even after all these years, we're busily trying to decode the Janet and John stories. Our mole in Moscow confirms they still can't take them at face value. They believe there must be a hidden meaning. No hidden meaning in Janet and John.
Passed me by completely.
Now, this one is Janet and John go on a cruise, and we'll be doing that in just a moment. Barra Brith Bowles, who helps our operations by providing traffic congestion when needed. Dudley Dolt Dedicoat, for broadcasting numbers codes to our operatives twice a week, and Knock Off Nove for driving our extraordinary rendition bus and mobile torture chamber. And could you mention to Boghead Boyd that being deep undercover does not include appearing from the bowels of a cruise ship while seated at a theatre organ? Would that it had been a theatre organ, you'd have leapt in and played it, wouldn't you, Johnny?
I would have been there, pulling all the stops out.
I read with considerable interest, says Deck D. Halls, that the latest Winter Wonderland casualty was, as part of its attraction, promising a magical encounter with the bearded man himself. Oh, this is the thing that closed down because people said it looked like the Gulag. Sadly, this will not now be possible. It's closed its doors, I'm afraid. So
After a week.
You must be disappointed. Wow. But still, looking on the bright side, leaves you free to cash in on the lucrative gnome and pixie market with the judicious donning of a cutlass, stripy shirt and bandana. Consider branching into the pirate-themed entertainments once the festive season is over. I imagine, it's a bit late, but it's probably still not too late for you to get a role in Panto somewhere.
Do you think?
Oh, yes, it is.
Oh, no, it isn't.
Anyway, Janet and John go on a cruise. Today, Janet and John are going on a big ship on the Mediterranean. See, Janet and John drive to the airport to catch the plane. John likes going to the airport, but Janet has to put on his reins to stop him running up and down the escalators. When the plane lands, Janet and John get a taxi to the dock. And Janet says, "Hurry up, John. We need 4 taxis for all your luggage from the airport, and we don't want to be late in case the ship goes without us." When Janet and John arrive at the ship, John is very excited. See the damp patch. The steward shows them to their cabin. See John unpack all his bags, put on his best sailor suit, the blue eyeshadow, matching bag with a big anchor.
Anchor?
Do you know what a big anchor looks like? Janet does. Janet says, "Why don't you go out for a walk on deck? But don't get up to mischief. I'm going to sit by the pool. I'll see you there in an hour." See John hop and skip along the promenade deck. John sees Mrs. Bickerdike. "Hey up, Fluffy Whiskers," says Mrs. Bickerdike. Mrs. Bickerdike is from Yorkshire. See the cloth caps. Mrs. Bickerdike says, "Fancy seeing you here, John. I'm just going for my half-hour walk on deck. Doesn't have to keep you fit. Would you like to come along?" And John says, "I'd really like to, but I get such pains in my knees when I walk for more than 10 minutes. See Mrs. Bickerdike wave goodbye. John walks a little further, sees Tudor and Anita, the Bushes. And then Tudor and Anita are making a film all about people who've lost all their suitcases on holiday and have nothing to wear. Tudor says, "Howdy, John." Tudor is from Texas. See the chainsaws. Anita says, "You look very smart in your uniform, John. We have a suite with a balcony at the back of the ship. We were just going back for a drink. Would you like to join us?" "Yes, please," says John, and when they get to the suite, John has a good look around the suite and bounces up and down on the great big bed. Tudor says, "What can I get you, John?" And John said, "I'd like some Baileys with ice and a pink umbrella, please." See Tudor give John a half a pint of Baileys. And John says, "I like this cabin. Ours is quite close to the engine room. Doesn't have any windows." Anita says, "Yes, it's very nice. The cabins at the back of the ship are much better because it's a smoother trip. We once had a cabin near the bow, and it was very rough." Soon it's time for John to meet Janet. Can you see where this is going yet?
Yes, I think I can.
And John waves goodbye to Tudor and Anita.
Can I leave now, please?
Trots up to the pool deck. Tie him down. When John arrives, Janet is playing deck quoits with Mrs. Dempsey. Janet says, "Did you have a nice time, John?" "Yes. I saw Mrs. Bickerdike, and she asked if I fancied a bit of a blow on the promenade deck. But I said I couldn't keep it up for half an hour, so instead I had a nice drink with Anita and Tudor, the Bushes, in the cabin. She said she liked a man in uniform. There was a great big bed in the cabin. Anita said she liked it in the stern. It was a much smoother passage than up front." See Janet Boyle. Do you know how to hit an elusive newsreader with deck quoits? Janet does. Run, John, run. As a matter of fact, I'm off myself.
This was a podcast from BBC Radio 2. Get more information now at bbc.co.uk/Radio 2. And wake up to Wogan every weekday morning from 7:30. Online, on digital, and on 88 to 91 FM.
Wake up to